Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Official or what?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
Indeed. So, doing kind of like a more niche, more specific topic. I don't know how much mileage we're going to get out of this, but it's something I've kind of been thinking about as I'm getting older in the internet age. And we're going to talk about like changing platforms. And we might broaden this out a little bit depending on if we need to. But I don't know, I've just been thinking a lot lately since Alfie started up the Discord server and I joined that. I'm like, this is different and I don't like it. And yeah.
Old Man Yells at Cloud, the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I don't know. I'm such a slow adopter of these things. I didn't join Twitter until 2009. Skype I got just because I was trying to get into the whole VA scene. I never got a actual MySpace. I never joined Facebook. I'm just such a slow adopter of different social medias and different platforms like that I feel like I have kind of a weird perspective on it. And I don't know, it's just... seeing some people just join a different one every other day, and I just don't know how to get myself in that headspace.
No, it's one of those things where I feel like I'm like, I don't even know if to say a middle ground, because I've definitely got more experience with these kind of things than you do, just the amount of the different ones, I think. But it's still not like, I feel the situation here is like when you like you set up the internet for like your parents, and they're like, wow, you're good with computers. And I'm like, yeah, I am. That's how I felt like when I was setting you up for Discord. It was like, well, thanks, Elfie, help me out here. I was like, yeah, I know this. So I've got kind of a cursory knowledge, but I very much am in your boat where the people who like know the ins and outs of all of these platforms so much, where they know how to make their like social media brand like apply to like Instagram, to Twitch, YouTube, every single thing, Discord, and like make that so universal and so frequent and seemingly be active on all of them at all times. I have no idea how they manage it or how they find the time. It's kind of impressive, and I do feel like it's something that, because there are just so many options now, while at the same time being, I guess it's weird because there's more options than there used to be, because when it was just like just Facebook or just forums, it was a bit more isolated. Now everyone has the same free things, so it's a bit more open in that sense, but because they only have those same free things, everything does kind of feel, I don't know, like every Discord server is kind of the same. Every Twitter account is kind of going for the same kind of vibes and stuff. You get like different communities. It's just really interesting to see how that's changed.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, there's like aesthetic things about each one that changes, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I never got Facebook. I'm like, why the fuck would I want to talk to these people who I'm barely related to? I don't want them knowing what's going on in my life. I get annoyed enough when like my mom asks me how I'm feeling, you know, like when the last time I went to the doctor was. I don't want like the fucking world knowing about that shit.
You're not a food tweeter, you?
No, I mean I've done it occasionally, but like that's when it's like special, you know, like when I fucking red Jello, whipped cream, serve it in a wine glass, intersperse the layers. Really nice, light dessert, very good presentation. And I took a picture of that. It's good. But I'm not gonna like do that every fucking day. Like, here I am eating Subway for the 3rd time this week. I'm just not.
Just the comments behind it, love heart, keep doing you, king.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
From like, there's 50 different cousins I didn't know who
Right.
now know where I'm doing my Subway.
I know. I mean, like, I'm so. I guess that's part of why I don't do that shit. Is I'm just so fucking boring in day-to-day life. Like, I'm the fucker that orders the same thing from the restaurants I go to. I go to an Italian restaurant, I order lasagna. I go to Subway, I've got a thing. It doesn't matter what Subway I'm at. I go to Taco Bell, I've got a thing that I get. And that's just it, and I'm not testing anything else out, and I'm done. and like, if they're out of something that makes my thing, I'm relatively annoyed. So like, just, I don't know, that's the side of things that never interested me. But then like, I joined the Discord and I'm like, oh, so it's like a forum. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then I'm like, but it's not a forum, because it's all instant messaging. So you post something like if it were a forum, and then it's buried like 10 minutes later. I'm just like, no, oh fuck no, that's terrible. I hate it. Because like I had experience with forums. I was really super active on the Joker Blogs fan forum. I was their highest poster.
Wow.
Yeah.
That credentials here, jeez.
That
I
was
didn't
like
know I was speaking to the highest poster. Whoa, hold on. The
Yeah.
Geeky Janitor just got a fucking upgrade.
Right. I think I had like some like 3,000 posts, because like I just made it such part of my routine that I'd go check it. Like I'd check it and I'd reply to about every new post that was made. And that'd just be, that was my morning while I was getting ready for class or something. I'd check the Joker blog forum, reply to every single thing, and suddenly I was like 3,000 posts or some crazy shit like that. Which is like, that doesn't sound like that much, but that's a fucking fan-made forum. And I guess that's why I'm such a slow adopter, is because I feel like a lot of people get kind of, bored with these things relatively quickly, and they just kind of tune them out after a while. I tend to take really deep dives on these things. Like, when I check my Twitter, I go all the way back to the last tweet I remember, and then I scroll all the way up, and I only get like 12-minute breaks, a couple hours apart in a day. That's a lot of shit that I'm reading and catching back up on, and I don't think most people do that. And that's probably why Twitter added that thing, like, while you're away, in case you missed it, kind of shit. I'm don't need that. I get kind of annoyed with that because I'm reading things twice. I'm like, fuck, this is throwing me off.
I gotta lie, man. I can't lie. That's kind of impressive that you could just take a look at the in case you missed it feed and be like, perish. Like, you just algorithm the algorithm with your searching through the backlogs. But I mean, I guess that's the same kind of thing though, because like Twitter's kind of like instant messaging everywhere. Like, if you're going to compare them, like, it is kind of like a single Discord channel where things will get buried. And the same thing does kind of apply. There is always a start. You can always scroll back. It just, both of them are kind of dependent on how much time you're willing to put in to find something. Whereas like a message board forum will have like just a search bar.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, I think forums just did it right the first time. And everything else has just been slowly tweaking them to try to make them better. But really, it's just fucking with it. Like, I maybe that's just me being old internet man. I don't know. Like, Twitter's fun and it's instantaneous and stuff, but it is really disorganized. I mean, I've had the experience. I'm pretty sure here on the show, I could probably, if I was not half as lazy as I am, I could probably go through old recordings of the show and be like, oh, let me just find this tweet that I saw 2 weeks ago. And I'm like searching keywords and I like vaguely remember the @ and stuff. And it's exhausting to try to find an old tweet. Whereas forum posts, oh yeah, I can find that shit like a snap. I can go find a joke that I told on the Joker Blogs forum 10 years ago. With ease. Like it's not gonna be
with
hard.
Ease.
With ease.
Right.
I'm gonna go to a specific thing and then I'm gonna search within that forum. It's just gonna be easier. I don't know. And I guess people don't like that level of organization or something. Reason? Question mark.
I think it's more so the idea of, I guess maybe more so the illusion would maybe be a better way to phrase this, of mimicking how a conversation happens in real life. Twitter is all about normally the like first 3 hours of a tweet, or like the first like 24 hours like max is like that's when it will get the most responses, the most people going with it, and like generally that's when you who send the tweet will be more interested in responding to people's opinions on it, because that's what you're currently thinking at the moment. And then when it's gone, it kind of is that mentality of, okay, that's done, that's gone, I don't need to see that again. Obviously there's different uses for that, like art posts will like obviously want to keep their Twitter art up as like, that's why they make moments and stuff, so people can easily find that they're specific posts. But generally I think most people day to day aren't even looking for that kind of organization, because it is kind of that throwing a sentence into the ether and not ever needing to see it again. And I think maybe that also comes to a problem where you get this idea where, because of how cancel culture's like kind of creeped in, loads of old celebrities are kind of wishing it disappeared a long time ago with some of their tweets. So I guess that's maybe why the organizational format of like forums has gone to the wayside, because although you're right, it's easier to find old stuff, at the same time it's so much more, I guess I could say, like it's still instant, but there's the initial leap to get involved in a specific conversation takes more work.
I tend to agree with that. It takes more work. You've got to go like search it out, new messages in this thread, and you got to like jump from thing to thing. Whereas like Twitter's got that, it's constantly updating. It's constantly giving you new information, and I mean I think everyone with Twitter has done it, where they go to load more tweets and nothing happens, and you're like, 1, 2, 3, load more tweets, nothing happens, and you're like, Yeah, I think you're definitely on to something, but just, I don't know, I feel like it should just be archived better. I think it should update instantly, and then because I mean, liking a tweet has just become a way to like respond without responding, and so I feel like it's just, instead of liking it, you should maybe have like a like and archive option of like where you want to save it to. Funny shit, memes, smut, the holy trinity, as it were.
I mean, moments are kind of that. It's just they're awkward to sell. You can add other people's tweets to moments.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, no one fucking cares about moments, and they're like, I don't know. I guess moments seem to be for like a very different purpose than what I'm talking about. Like I feel like moments are more for other people than they are for yourself. At least maybe not in intention, but certainly in the way that they end up getting used.
I mean, maybe, because personally, for my use, for when I do like cosplay upgrades on Twitter, I do like to have them in my moments, so I don't have to scroll back like months ago of tweets to see like my old Superman cosplays. It's there. So at the same time, it's kind of fulfilling both for me, where I can be like, okay, here's an easy resource for anyone who wants to see this, here's also helps me keep track of all of this. You can kind of get away with that as well when you make your own hashtag, because you can normally, unless you're like super big, that hashtag isn't going to get that much. So it's a handy, just click on it and you'll see all the tweets related to it from you and other people. But that also requires a kind of involvement from other people, from strangers, to go along with that if you do want to keep track of like a full hashtag. I know we tried to start a hashtag a while back, and that helped keep track of some organizational things, but if we didn't have those YouTube videos, I doubt anyone would have actually done the hashtag with us. So there's that. I think maybe it's just one of those things where the culture has just moved on from the ideas of needing to be so organized, because a lot of people are. I guess maybe one of the ones we haven't mentioned is Tumblr. And Tumblr kind of fulfilled the best mix of that, I guess, where it was still like Twitter, where you constantly getting updates, but you did have archives, and you did have like, here's where everyone has their own like tabs for specific things. So that was I think the best middle ground, if I had to think of like a modern example of the forum archetype.
Yeah, and again, I feel like the old man here because I'm so slow to adopt this shit. You know, the Cuminator tried to get me to adopt Discord because all I did was bitch to him about Skype, and Skype is trash now. Skype is a shadow of its former self. Like, for some reason, every fucking time I start Skype, or at least every other time I start Skype, it has to reinstall itself, and I don't understand. I feel like Skype's just as surprised that I'm still using it as I am. But like, you know, the Cuminator tried to get me on Discord when he and I were doing the monthly roundup show, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you should join Discord, man. It's so much better than Skype." And I'm like, I mean, you're probably right, but like, I just feel like I'm so committed to this bad relationship where every time it updates, without fail, every time it updates, it gets worse because it's just trying to do what everything else is doing. It's just trying to be more like everything else, and that's what makes it worse because it's losing what made it unique in the first place. That and drug dealers don't use Skype anymore.
I mean, that's where we're losing your real market. This is where you're still committed. How else are you going to get your fix?
Funny story, Skype used to have like surprisingly intense encoding, and so drug dealers like to have people contact them on Skype so that way they couldn't have their phones tapped.
I mean, the wonders of the more you know,
right?
I think is the lesson learned here. You raised an interesting point that I'm kind of curious on, which I 100% do agree, that it is kind of the thing where everything's trying to be more like each other. Do you think we're ever going to get to the point where it is? Because we're in 2019 and Monopoly is like the hot new thing. Everyone's getting Monopoly. So do you think we're ever going to get to the point where there is just one platform that is going to be the aggregate of everything into one, not even all the features, but just everyone gets to the point where they want everything so streamlined that we remove all the features until it's just one thing? Because again, Skype's trying to be like Discord, Discord's trying to be like Twitter, Twitter's trying to be like everything else. It's trying to change what it is weekly, apparently. So I think that's really strange.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. Google stepped its foot into the social media craze and put its foot directly in its mouth with Google Plus. But it is technically the owner of YouTube, which can never decide if it wants to be a social network. It kind of burned that bridge 5 years ago and then tried to restart it about a year ago, and then is immediately like, all right, well, no one's using it for this anymore, so this feature's gone again. The friend system on YouTube, when it first started, was like really useful because it'd be like, oh, I like this person. They don't really upload, so I don't want to subscribe to them and have a really messy subscription feed, but I want to be able to check in with them and see what they're liking and stuff. No, we're getting rid of friends. You have to subscribe to people now. Okay, well, guess I'm not going to do that. And then, like, again, just like a year or so ago, they're like, hey, friend requests and private messaging is back, and we're actually gonna, support it, not try to bury it this time. And everyone's like, what the fuck is this? We haven't used this for like 5 years. So like, but Google tried to step in with the social networking thing, and it did fail miserably. I don't know if anyone's gonna try to buy out Twitter or Facebook or anything, if you even could at this point. Facebook's doing the big conglomerate thing because it bought Instagram, if I'm remembering correctly. It bought a number of other like startup social media platforms and basically just made it part of Facebook, just linked it. It's certainly possible that like Amazon or Google will finally just say fuck it, buy them outright, and then just merge it all into one thing. That's probably a little down the line. At least I'm hoping so, because I really don't want those two companies getting more powerful.
I mean, this is one of those things where, due to their nature, it's almost like inevitable unless there's a big shake-up. Like the Google Plus thing really was like, they can fuck up quite massively and like embarrassingly, but they're still pretty much fine. Like they could always try again and do other stuff with it. Like that's just kind of like the too big to fail at this point, I feel like. So if they did ever want to make a move like that, even if it took them 10, 20 years, I think eventually it would. Just through the sheer, like, we've already gone so far in such a short amount of time. And social media is still fairly like a recent phenomenon in the large scheme of human history, but it's already become such a worldwide thing where the majority of like the Western speaking world and like other more like well-off countries who have like those accesses are able to just completely change their daily lives and how workspaces work, how businesses are done through social media. Like it completely just enveloped everything. And I feel like maybe that is kind of as technology is going to improve and whatever crazy new Skynet ideas they get, we're going to eventually reach a point where I do feel like it will be, just because of the sake of efficiency and making things smaller and making things more direct, we're going to just get to one thing. Be that one thing that links to other things, or however that ends up looking like. I can't imagine that. I'm not nearly as clever for someone like that. Don't call me futurist. But there's definitely something to it, I feel. And I feel like if you look at like the early days, like the start of it, with like MSN and like those like kind of like, you can see that there is a clear progression. None of these ideas are really, like even Twitter, none of it's really new. It's all technically been done before in other sites and other boards and like other like small companies who were big at the time. But it's just, I feel like it's just as phones got smaller and more portable, the idea of a messaging center became a lot easier for just on the go. Like that's a direct correlation, I feel like.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like, it's so weird because MSN and Yahoo Instant Messenger were like so big for so long. That's like, I'm trying to think when Yahoo launched with IM. That was a huge deal. It's so crazy to think that Yahoo was an internet giant at one point. And now it's like the fucking dirty laundry that no one wants to do, so they just keep selling it off to other people, and for some reason people keep fucking buying it. But like, I want to say it was like maybe early 2000s, like as early as 2003. And I mean, again, even I'm gonna reveal some criminal information about myself, but I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations has passed. So back in like 2003, 2004, I was on LimeWire. Do you know LimeWire used to have an instant messenger system? So you could talk to the people you were illegally downloading music from, and porn. Like that was a thing. That was a weird fucking thing. I remember like, and the mentality then was just like sit at your computer and watch it download for like hours if you're doing like anything other than a 2-minute MP3 song. So watch it just download and download and download and be bored, and so you right click on the person's name and then it says message, and you just fucking instant message with whoever was on the other end of it. And half the people on the other end of it didn't even know there was such a thing, so they'd get a message and be like, whoa, what the fuck is this?
That's great.
Yeah. Oh god, it was so weird. And so like, but yeah, you got Yahoo Instant Messenger. I want to say they started up in like 2002, 2003, and that was a huge thing. MSN, is it MSN or is it MSN? I think it was MSN.
It's MSN, yeah.
Oh, MSN. Okay. I remember they had features that legit I don't understand why those features have not been reintegrated into things like Skype. They had a feature that was like an alarm clock that you could send, and like it would fuck with other programs on the person's screen and like make it vibrate to let them know that you've been trying to message them. You know how fucking useful that shit would be?
Oh yeah.
But like you've also like gotten the instant message and be like, I don't want to talk to this person right now on Skype or whatever, and like you know how fucking annoying that shit would be? That would be an instant block. But you'd never have the, oh sorry, I totally missed this. At least you wouldn't have that excuse anymore. You'd have to just make some shit up. Oh man. Like that shit's just, I don't know. It's crazy to think about, like, those things were at the same time so raw, but so in their own very specific way perfect. Like, they did exactly what they needed to, and they didn't get bogged down with other shit. But then Skype came around and it's like, yeah, voice and video calling for free, screen sharing for free, file sharing before they made it suck. Oh boy, that was fun. It's just so much was like added when Skype started up, and then slowly just kept negating itself and making itself worse and worse, and now it just uninstalls itself quietly because it thinks you're done with it.
Skype's just like that friend who was really, really just fantastic in high school, like all the best grades, but as soon as they got into the real world, just make compromises. And now they're your drunk friend who just sits outside your room, and when you knock on them to say hi, they're surprised you're still talking to them.
Aww. Oh man. I don't know, it's crazy to think about just how that stuff changes. Something I want to talk about, because like I've mentioned it a little bit here and there, but I don't think we've really gotten into it. I want to talk about the baggage of changing over to a new platform, because I feel like there's almost something a little existential, a little depressing about changing over to new platforms, and that's the people that you do or do not take with you. Like, I used to be on Skype quite a lot and be talking with people like crazy, just getting messaged from people who are like, hey, I'm bored, what's up? That didn't happen, that really stopped happening, and I realized it's because everyone else switched to Discord, and I was like the one left behind, and it took like until VAC switched to Discord before anyone started inviting me, and I'm just like, at this point I'm just like stuck in my ways, and I'm just like, I have a Discord, but I'm not gonna actively use it. Ha ha ha! Who's the stupid one now?
Don't want you to answer that. Oh, that is... No, I can kind of get where you're going there, but like, at the same time, I feel like sometimes there is kind of a freeing nature to that. I think especially when you're from just personal experience, I know when I wanted to start like making like a known with Geeks for Fun and stuff like that. Have enjoyed being able to, because this isn't the first time I've talked about having a YouTube channel. When I was like younger with like friends and stuff, I was like, oh hey, we can make a YouTube channel and stuff. We can do stuff like that. And it was just one of those things where like being able to move that from like Facebook conversations, and then I moved to Skype and then Twitter and then eventually Discord. It's just one of those things where I'm just like, being able to leave some people behind, not you, precious bean, who left you behind, who hurt you, but there is something to being able to do that. I've having that kind of clean slate of, okay, this is a new place, this is a new way to get new connections, and it gives you the chance to be able to interact with people you never would have been able to on the other platforms. Like Twitter is absolutely fantastic for being able to build like new connections, not just for like creators, but just like talking to people randomly from a piece of art you both like, and now suddenly you're following each other and you got all these new interests. I think that's, out of all of them, the one I feel like is more suited to actual, as much as you can on the internet, but like social connections. Like Skype, you kind of had to already somehow know the person. It's very rare that you just like get an invite.
Yeah, it was like 6 degrees of separation at best. Like you'd be in a, and again, these don't happen anymore. You'd be in like a massive group call and you just add all the people you didn't know. That, it's been at least 3 years since I've been in one of those. At least, if not longer. Because it just, the community doesn't exist anymore. Like, I message someone like, hey, you want to hop on Skype and record an episode? And they're like, oh man, I gotta check to see if I even still have Skype. Because so many people have just moved on. And so the platform's pretty much dead. You're right though, Twitter is a really, really good place for that, because it creates those threads and those opportunities for networking that I think those are more attuned to Twitter than something like Facebook. MySpace used to be a little bit more the middle ground where you could have the longer form conversations, but then it obviously fell off. But I think Twitter's a more natural place for that, because Facebook tends to be more like connections to people you actually know, tangentially sometimes, whereas Twitter is like connections to people with shared interests, you know?
Yeah, Facebook, to get the shared interests, you have to start joining specific groups, which is still like an extra bit of, like, if I want to see Dragon Ball stuff on like my Facebook timeline, I have to join like a Dragon Ball Facebook group, and that's the closest thing you can get. But then that's the extra degree of having to do that, and then you don't know it's more limits and boundaries rather than I post a tweet with a Dragon Ball art and someone that gets retweeted on someone else's timeline, someone random who I'd never speak with normally sees that and is like, oh hey, I like that, I'm going to follow you, and that immediately. I think it also helps because when you post a tweet, it is like a DM, but to everyone, like that's completely public and open, and for better or for worse, the idea that people can jump in on any thread and respond to anything can be a good thing sometimes, because sometimes you get some interesting conversations from people who are just like, hey, you are like polite, I said, don't want to interrupt, but here's my thoughts. But then there's also the bad things about that, where you'll have the more, like, you couldn't get the comic skate on Skype.
Very true. Because, I mean, you just hang up on the person and block them 2 seconds later, you know? Mm-hmm. Whereas you just, like, you're away from your phone for 10 minutes, and then you come back, and there's this, like, just behemoth of a thread from one person who's retweeted it to their followers, and all the little shills are just clicking and adding comments, and then you get, like, the fucking Nazi memes, and you're just like, this is trash. Better, now I got a blockchain, and that's just ridiculous. It's definitely got like the how to put this? It's definitely got like a really harsh side to it. Funny thing about Twitter though, that's like less, when that stuff is less apparent at least. Because I just had this the other day, where I was like, oh, here's this guy that, like, responded to a tweet I said, and he's got some cool fan art. I'm gonna follow him. And then I'm just like, alright, scrolling through the feed. It's like, I stand with Vic Mignola. And I'm like, oh!
I know the guy! Oh my god, I had the same thing!
And I was like, oh, okay. Unfollow. I'm like, that's the really funny thing, is because you're not, like, because you are only connecting on the shared interest, you have that opportunity to run into people who, like, actively piss you off. Because, like, shit, you and I have this with the fucking Batman community all the goddamn time. I like Batman, and a lot of other people like Batman, and unfortunately, all those people that like Batman apparently don't like Tom King, and fuck them.
They're beautiful heathens, as I like to say. I love you all Batman fans, but you hurt me. Why'd you hurt Daddy Alfie like this? I'm just trying to show you the good food.
Right? It's just like, so you connect on that shared interest, which at heart there's something beautiful there about the idea that there's more that brings us together than tears us apart. But at the same time, fuck it, no, I ain't about that life. Like there's a really good tweet, and I'm not gonna go looking for it, but there's a really good tweet that someone says, like, listen, I was talking about therapists, and they made a good point, which is, you are in charge of your own social media experience, no one else. And I'm like, shit, that is good. That, like, so epitomizes the whole fucking debate me moves that people make. It's like, no, I don't fucking have to bother with you if I don't want to. Get the fuck off my timeline. That shit is so, like, important to know, and I think it's one of the things that makes Twitter a really good... Good is a loose term. I think that's one of the advantages that Twitter has as a platform. Whereas, like, you can't block your grandma on Facebook. You can't do that. You just have to, like, try to get the algorithm to realize you don't want to see her fucking, like, Second Amendment memes and shit, you know? Like, that's like a real thing that people have to deal with on Facebook that I don't have to fucking put up with on Twitter.
That's a really good point. I think that the power it holds means it can be a force for great good, but at the same time, although it is a force for terrible evil, it gives you the sword to fight that evil. Twitter is very much you can hit the hornet's nest and get a legion to come after you, but at the same time, here's all the tools to fucking clear that legion off your feed so you never have to see them ever again, as long as you've got the time for it. Mm-hmm. So there is that to it. I guess just mainly in terms of talking about, like, the improvements of different platforms and how that relates to, like, social media, do you think there's anything, like, similar to over time improving, like, outside of that, like the game consoles things I think you mentioned? I think that's interesting to talk about how that's also kind of had the same kind of, like, streamlining thing to, like, where the Xbox and the PlayStation are basically the exact same thing at this point, but, like, Nintendo's like the Skype where it's still doing its own thing.
It's funny, I saw a tweet, it was a tweet of a screenshot of a YouTube comment, where it's like, this YouTube comment's 10 years old, and it's like, fucking Xbox is gay, PS3 has better graphics and the better games, like, y'all can fuck off. And then it, like, swipe, and it's the same account, but it's, like, 10 years later, and it goes, man, 10 years later, and I'm fully ready to admit they looked exactly the same, the game exclusivity pretty much balanced out, and by the way, I came out of the closet now. And it's like character growth.
Damn.
Right? And so, like, game systems is a thing, because I remember that war. I remember the PS3 versus Xbox 360 war. I remember watching the video of the guy on YouTube who bought 2 PlayStation 3s new in box from his work and lit them on fire and shot them and stuff, because that's when the PS3 was still really hard to get. And he's like, yeah, you fucking PS3 boys crying over this while Xbox is better. I remember that stupid bullshit. And I remember being like, this guy's a fucking idiot. But deep down I was like, God, that fucking asshole, I really want one of those PS3s. What the fuck would you do that? Like, if someone else remembers that video, please comment, because like I can't be the only one that saw that bullshit happen. Anyway. But yeah, like the whole gaming war thing, and that's where like I think the worst communities have just like festered, to the point where like when Nintendo announced with its Switch Online Play, it's like, yeah, we're not going to do voice chat or anything like that. It's just going to be play. You won't have the ability to talk to anyone. A lot of like the gamer community was like, this is fucking bullshit. But a lot of the people that are gamers but not part of the gamer community because they hate the gamer community are like, oh, thank God.
This is just why we need to rise up with the Joker movie, because that's just oppression, Ian, and I can't believe you're promoting gamer oppression on Geeky Gentlemen. Like, for starters, voice chat, how else am I going to be able to call derogatory terms to minorities in, like, I'm going to have to go and do it on Twitter? Like, come on, guys.
That could get screenshotted.
Like, I could get found out for that.
Right. I mean, but at the same time, there's like, it's funny to see the different like things that the gamer community has done. Like, I remember this really funny ass clip when Xbox first like launched their whole like voice recognition thing. This guy goes, "This dude's gamer tag is Xbox turn off," and then like his fucking Xbox started to shut down in the middle of a match. And that was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen. He's
Nice.
like, oh God, no!
Yeah, stuff like that is just, like, again, you look at how far that's changed from the innocent, wide-eyed Xbox days of Xbox Live, and that first kicked off the wave of that, where it's just like, okay, wow, I can hear them, and they can hear me. That's the coolest thing about Xbox Live, the voice. Like, those commercials just kill me in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
The evolution of like voice chat and like how that came a thing, like just even then, just online play, I think, and that evolution, because that is, I guess, it tried to be a kind of social media. Like, you got the friends list, you've got the messaging and stuff, and they got the share features, and there's communities on like things we've got now, like PlayStation 4 and like the Switch, with like something like Mario Maker is very community based, and that's almost its own subculture. And I think all that's really interesting. But the evolution of that from Sony and Nintendo just kind of being like, oh yeah, we don't spend a lot on our servers anyway, here's just them for free, that's just it. And then Microsoft being like, oh no, we're not going to spend any money on our servers either, we're still going to charge you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sony and Nintendo being like, well, capitalism means we're going to have to do that too. And it's just stuff like that really shows, I think that's the most direct example I can see of them trying to market innovation as innovation, when reality is literally them just doing the exact same thing Microsoft did because it got them a lot of money, and that's the only reason they're doing that for the service. Like, PlayStation Plus is cool, but it could be its own thing without having to pay for the online service.
No, that's exactly what PS3 is. Like, you can still pay for PlayStation Plus, and then, yeah. But why would you if you can just game online for free? Something I totally do all the time with my many online single-player games.
That's how it loves it. How else are you going to get those Sonic Generations high scores?
Yeah, pretty much. God. No, see, like, the Generations fucking thing is bullshit, because all the high scores are for people that are using the goddamn glitches, and I'm just like, I ain't gonna fucking devote my life to learning how to fucking glitch out goddamn Speed Highway so that I can just float through a black void. It ruins the goddamn level. Get that shit out of here.
This is why, folks, he was on that gamer oppression. The truth comes out eventually. This is why I like to do these talks with Ian, because it shows that all of it really comes down to Sonic and him just not being good.
I'm really not. It's sad how bad I am at video games. Like I'm from the generation where you're just supposed to you're supposed to know video games. You're supposed to know how to type really fast and hack the Pentagon, and you're supposed to understand the culture. And I understand none of it. And also I'm bad at games. Anyway, you know, you were talking about game voice chat, and like, it is sad that got as toxic as it did. I mean, I think anyone could have predicted that was going to happen. You put a bunch of teenagers with no consequences for their actions. Yeah.
Don't you realize your actions have consequences?
Yeah. But like, there was a sweet spot where it was pretty fun. I remember has Need for Speed Pro Street, so it was an early PS3 game, and I'm sitting in a lobby waiting for a race to start, and I'm on the fucking headset that I paid $50 for a Bluetooth headset because I was a fucking idiot. And I'm on the headset waiting to play, and like it didn't even sound good. It was real shit quality. We're waiting to play, and then all of a sudden my mom's just in the kitchen, which is like, you know, connected to the TV room, and she just screeches at the top of her lungs, and I turn around and I flip the headset off real quick, and I run in there, and she's literally, it's like a fucking scene out of a 50s movie. She's standing on a ladder because there's a spider in the kitchen. So I have to kill it and get rid of it and stuff, and then I go back on the chat, and everyone on there is like, what the fuck is going on? Is there like a goddamn murder? It's a hilarious moment. My mom's like, don't make fun of me to them.
That's gold.
Yeah, it was fucking great, and like, I'm sure plenty of people have great stories like that from gaming voice chat, but like, I don't know, all the shit I've heard, I'm just like, nah, fuck off with that stuff. Just no.
There's like some things where, like, one of my favorite experiences on PlayStation 3 with that was Red Dead Redemption Online, because how the voice chat in that worked was it was proximity based, where you could only hear people if they would be like a certain distance from you. So it was very much like that was a big map, and you get like a couple, like 50 people on like a server, and it would be very like immersive, just like, oh hey, this is another person, he's probably gonna try and rob me and kill me, but we can have fun while we're talking about it, because it's just so surreal being in that situation, trying to negotiate yourself out of it with like a 12-year-old with a gun at your face. Like, some of those moments are just magical. So there's that. I thought that was like I think that's the best kind of version of it, where, yes, I think, forewarned, you do kind of have to have a thicker skin about these things if you do want to do that kind of thing, just because you're gonna run into people who will just have no filter, like, at all, because again, be it they're young or they're just like they're abusing the video game environment. But there are some, like, there's a type of humor like you can get with just the people reacting to the insanity of placing so many different players in a single place and just watching the madness like happen. Like, that's why games like DayZ got so popular. Like, that's a really basic ass bare game, but the community in that game made it get really big, just because the idea of his voice chat in a zombie apocalypse, have fun, like that immediately just it created stories from people in that. So I think that's something. I think that's a positive. The problem is, as things have gone on and kind of gamer culture has become a culture where that kind of thing happened, where everyone was still kind of figuring things out. You got the more hardcore ones, but even then, they'd normally help the new ones, because it was more so just like, oh yeah, we're having fun here. There's a console wars, pick your side, ha ha ha. Now it's got to the point where they've become so set in that and seeped in that. We're like in like year 10 of Batman history, where everything's gritty and dark now. Even Clock King is murdering people. Now that's the level video game voice chat has got to, where there's just no, like, even attempt to, just from what I've experienced, like with Overwatch and stuff. That's like a big modern team game, and that's very dependent on teamwork. Like, it's very much, you've got a 6-man team and you want to order positioning and pick your characters and stuff, but then if one guy just wants to pick damage character and like damage character, you've got no healers, and you try and talk to them about, like, you go on voice chat, like meek British alpha, like, hey guys, do you wanna be a healer? I don't mind being the other one, but we could do 2 healers. Just unsalted with a wave. Oh, like it's like you see it coming, but then you hear the mic icons, and you just attacked with the most vile vitriol, like Jesus. Like, and then you'll get messaged afterwards blaming you. Like that's the level it's got to, and that makes me laugh in its own way. But I can imagine, like, if it was like, again, I've got a sense of humor about that, things like I find that funny. I can joke about that, but like I can 100% see how that would just like fuck someone up and like stop them from enjoying a game they otherwise might have enjoyed. But like the social media aspect of that game completely killed their enjoyment of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know, like, we're talking about the social aspect of gaming. I was actually, when I, initially talked about gaming consoles, I was kind of talking about something that I just recently experienced. So let's see here. Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, PS1, PS2, PSP again because it got stolen, PS3, Nintendo Switch. That is my gaming history.
Not bad.
Nintendo, going from, Sega into PlayStation, I feel was a very natural progression because obviously Sega died out. Going from PlayStation to Nintendo has been one of the weirdest, like, culture shifts for me. And I realized, like, you can go back to some of our early episodes when we had a guy named Alec on here. And, like, he made a really good point. Like, listen, if you like mascot characters and stuff, you should just be playing Nintendo because that's the home for that stuff. And that was when I was still, like, vaguely into PlayStation, even though it really wasn't playing anymore and stuff. I was like, no, but not really, because bullshit reason. I don't want to abandon the franchise that I've attached myself to because capitalism has trained me not to. And, the fact of the matter is, now, like, 6 years later, he was fucking right. I'm so, like, Nintendo is so geared toward my taste in gaming that it's actually made me want to game more, but I'm still bad at it.
But that's the thing as well, though. Nintendo is that kind of, like, how they approach it is so different from the other consoles, just from the sheer fact that they're still, like, they don't know how to run a company. They don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to market things. But damn it, they know how to make games, and they know how to at least try shit. Like, Nintendo is the king of weird idea, here it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the funny part about Nintendo. It's always, like, 2 steps ahead, 1 step back. It's like, hey, we're going to have the best quality games with actually some of the best graphics when the major shift to 3D. Oh, cool. But we're going to stay on cartridge. Why? Like, okay, fine, we're going to disc now, and we're going to be like everyone else, but we're still going to have, like, really, really high quality gameplay. Oh, cool. By the way, it's on this little tiny mini disc. Why? Oh, we're going to revolutionary, motion-based gameplay that's really going to revolutionize the whole gaming industry. Oh, cool. Standing in standard definition, though. Everyone else is going to HD. We're not. Why? It's just always that way with Nintendo. They're always 2 steps ahead, 1 step behind. It's amazing. That shit gets me.
Yeah, it's really a skill at this point, and I feel like the Switch is maybe the one time when that hasn't. It's at least not as obvious as the other ones. Like, most people can generally make, like, those comments, like, and then, like, the Wii U is just the joke in of itself. Like, the Wii U is the punchline. But the Switch is that kind of thing where it's just more straightforward while still having that, oh, this is different because it's having your 3DS and your Wii U merged into one, but still being a new console. Whereas something like the Wii, I feel like maybe more catering to the idea that you had where, yeah, you don't have to be good at video games. Like, the reason the Wii did so monumentally well and, like, kind of changed a lot of society's perceptions on video games is because it was so just easy for like your grandma to pick up and start surfing in Wii Sports. Like there she goes. Like she can win. Surprisingly, she could turn up from the back and take it all. Like that, having that simple efficiency of movement in a settled down, easy to understand, like basic mentality where we don't have to make these things look gorgeous and visually striking. We just have to make sure people can understand what the elements of the screen are, because this is a game. This isn't meant to be a movie or anything. So Nintendo taking that approach and how they design their consoles around that, I feel is what I agree with you, where it is something I think it took me a while to appreciate. I definitely had to get older to get that. But it is one of those things where I think it's really smart and really just refreshing, because again, PlayStation and Xbox will constantly push the boundaries of, holy crap, this looks gorgeous. Oh my god, how did they, like Last of Us 2, oh my god, that's just the animations of that. How did they animate that? Like every single thing of that, the movement and everything looks so smooth, like that, incredible, pushing the boundaries. Technical, like, uppage. It's the equivalent of like the Sega Nintendo like Bit Wars. But at the same time, with a video game where you got a controller and it's very like complete this to have fun, do objective, go here. How much of that is really like? I guess this is a situation where, because Nintendo can still tell stories, but it's definitely not the focus. Do you go for the gaming console with the mentality that a lot of more modern gamers are, where it's seen as like an art form, where it's seen as a form of expression for like storytelling and the gameplay is almost secondary, sometimes it helps? Or is the evolution going toward the Nintendo route, where they constantly just streamline, here's board game alpha, like here's just the board game refined to its best state, here's Monopoly in the best state, like that kind of idea where pick it up and play, you can be 5, you can be 30, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think that's almost like completely separate topic and should maybe be saved, so I don't want to really get into it too much. I do want to say this real quick before I forget. For all the Wii U's the Wii's incredibly intuitive user interface and stuff, you ever try to fucking watch Netflix on the Wii and have to search for a particular title? Because you couldn't use the arrows. You had to fucking point and click every individual letter. It was awful. Anyway. Yeah, that more broad question about like which one's the better path is a really big deal. And I feel like the answer has to be both. I feel like the story and in-depthness of gameplay and the boundaries of the art form is definitely going to be a thing. But I think as that gets perfected, they'll also figure out how to make it so you can just pick it up and play. You know? Like, I think that's the thing, is like, Nintendo's working on making gameplay seamless, and Xbox and Sony are working on making gameplay more in-depth, and I feel like those two paths eventually have to meet somewhere, you know? I don't know, it's a really intriguing question, to be certain. I don't know.
It's one of those things where, like, to mirror it back to the general, like, idea of, like, the progression of these different platforms, maybe that does kind of tie into the social media point I kind of made a while back about how that will eventually reach like a single apex, because they're all heading in the same direction. It does feel like we're back in, because I mean, technology is always a race, like in every single form of this, be it down to just medical science or like we're talking video games and social media. They're always going to have improvements. It's always going to keep continually finding new ways to completely change it that will be obvious to us when it happens, but before then we couldn't imagine it. And that's really good. That's like a really strong suit of humanity that like should always be proud of. But at the same time, it does always kind of lead to the eventually, when there is an end point for some things, when you just, because some ideas can only be mined so far. And I do feel like however long it will take for us to get to messaging platform apex, like Justice League 1 million, the messaging platform. Like when it gets to that, it's going to be just one thing. And I think you're very right about the Nintendo and the other the other game consoles mentality of going towards games. There are already a bit of crossover between that. Like Breath of the Wild is very story through gameplay based, and I think that's kind of where the future's going to be, where it will be a narrative told through the game mechanics. Is the because again, that's kind of how we started. Like a lot of these things do kind of circle back. Like we talked about MSM, is that has really good features that would still be good today. You play like Mega Man X or just like Sonic 3 and Knuckles. A lot of those stories are so bare boned, but they're all told through gameplay. They're all told by just walking through the environment and how you interact with things and how you interact with this character. Like the moment we developed storytelling in gaming, in my, at least how I view it, and super personal, this isn't me trying to be a historian because it's not, but when Sonic gets bored and turns at you at the screen and then eventually will just jump off and die if you leave him too long, that's character through game mechanics. And I think that's gonna be like obviously a bigger inflation than that, but that's the early seed that I think we're still trying to perfect in a bigger, more modern setting.
I want to have Grant Morrison write a Sonic the Hedgehog comic now where he details like that specific mechanic and turns it into this like really fucking trippy ass thing, you know?
Where does Sonic go when he jumps off the screen?
Yeah, like you fucking the player, you made him commit suicide because he's just so bored with you. And you know, anytime he goes off screen, he dies, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's just so tired of you that he killed himself, and there's something really powerful in that.
I can see it. I want it now that you've spoken it into existence. It must happen.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. I think you made a really good point there, and I kind of just shat all on it with my shitty Scottish accent Grant Morrison impression. So
I mean, that's just the show, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So I think we're just gonna leave it there. I think that was a really, really good way to end this topic. So cool, Alfie. We need a review topic.
All right. So I'm gonna phrase you with this one, because I was half expecting Steve to be here, and so he's put me on blast. So I'm gonna have to get him payback for that. So because I have to think of this on the fly. But we've been talking to you about it anyway. So if you don't like it, you can blame Steve for me forcing this upon you. But I want to talk about Scott Snyder's Justice League. Now specifically, there is an arc I want to talk about the most, but it's one of the later ones. So either A, I'm going to be nice to you and just say, okay, just read the first arc and we'll talk about that. Or I want you to read all of it up to that arc I want to talk about.
Okay, how about this? How about we say we'll just do the first arc, but if I read it and I get fucking hooked, then I'll read the whole run up to whatever's on DC Universe right now. Okay?
All right, that sounds like a plan.
All right. So we'll see. How many issues is the first arc? Do you remember off the top of your head?
It's like a trade, so like 6.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do the first arc of Scott Snyder's Justice League. Fair enough. It's been a while since we've talked about something that just pissed me off, so maybe.
Maybe,
right.
hopefully, rubs fingers together.
Yeah, that's what gets the views. Alrighty. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm a geek for fun.
And we are your key gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.